Hello everyone, we're on chapter 9 and we're on paragraph 40. This is an ideal, many will say. Doubtless, but it is an ideal which is a real element in us, working its way to the surface of our nature. It is no ideal just thought up or dreamed, but one which has life and which announces itself clearly even in the last perfect form, and which announces itself clearly even in the least perfect form of its existence. If man were merely a natural creature, there would be no such thing as the search for ideals, that is, for ideas which for the moment are not effective, but whose realization is required. With the things of the outer world, the idea is determined by the percept. We have done our share when we have recognized the connection between idea and percept, but with the human being it is not so. The sum total of his existence is not fully determined without his own self. His true concept as a moral being, free spirit, is not objectively united from the start with the percept picture man, needing only to be confirmed by knowledge afterwards. Man must unite his concept with the percept of man by his own activity. Concept and percept coincide in this case only if man himself makes them coincide. This he can only do if he has found the concept of the free spirit, that is, if he has found the concept of his own self. In the objective world, a dividing line is drawn by our organization between percept and concept. Knowledge overcomes this division. In our subjective nature, this division is no less present. Man overcomes it in the course of his development by bringing the concept of himself to expression in his outward existence. Hence, not only man's intellectual, but also his moral life leads to his twofold nature, perceiving, direct experience, and thinking. The intellectual life overcomes this twofold nature by means of knowledge. The moral life overcomes it through the actual realization of the free spirit. Every existing thing has its inborn concept, the law of its being and doing. But in external objects, this concept is indivisibly bound up with the percept and separated from it only within our spiritual organization. In man, concept and percept are, at first, actually separated, to be just as actually united by him. One might object, at every moment of a man's life, there is a definite concept corresponding to our percept of him, just as with everything else. I can form for myself the concept of a particular type of man, and I may even find such a man given to me as a percept. If I now add to this the concept of a free spirit, then I have two concepts for the same object. And 40 is summarized as follows. Freedom is an ideal, that is, a real element that works in us. The intellectual life overcomes our twofold nature, that of thinking and perceiving by means of knowledge, whereas our moral life overcomes it through the actual realization of the free spirit. As mentioned before, Steiner said our twofold nature is that of we have concepts, we think, and then we perceive, and we observe objects of we have percepts, which are objects of observations. So our dual nature consists that we are a percept, we are an object of observation, but we also have to deal with ideas and concepts. So what Steiner says here is that the idea of freedom is a real element and has life. And you can see that in a lot of countries that are still developing, where they don't have democracy, where there really they're not very politically stable. You can see there's a lot of problems, where there's a lot of fighting, because really the people are seeking freedom, and that ideal is everywhere. Everyone has this yearning for freedom. I mean, even in the women's movement, I mean, there has been this freedom. You can't hold down people, because that's a real element. And if you look at a lot of power struggles that are going on in this world, it's mainly because one group of people is wanting freedom, and another group feels they don't deserve it or whatnot. They don't have the right. But the reality is, freedom is an ideal in all of us, and it is a right in all of us. And so, you can argue all you want, but that is a real ideal that lives in people. And so what Steiner says as well here is that when we are gaining knowledge about things, what we do is we come across, as he mentions, a percept, and then through our own activity, we find the concept. But the process is reversed. He says here, with the things of the outer world, the idea is determined by the percept. We have done our share when we have recognized the connection between idea and percept, but with the human being, it is not so. So basically, as I said, the process of gaining knowledge is, as I said, you get the percept, you start with the percept, you get the concept. But in moral activity, the process is reversed. So I have a concept of the self, and then that has to lead for me to create the percept. And so what Steiner is arguing is that we need to become conscious of this concept that we are free spirits. And from there we fashion our moral life, because now we have a concept, we have an idea, and then now we must work towards that. And as he said, it is the moral life overcomes it through the actual realization of the free spirit. So now we have to work when we have this concept. And you can see that, for example, someone who has this idea for a business. So now you have this concept, and now you must make it reality. And that is how the process of gaining knowledge is a reverse of what the process of morality is. So now we're starting to see a connection there because we were wondering, why the hell is he talking about this whole process of knowledge? But now we see how it's relating to this process of morality. It's just the reverse process, which is you start with percept and concept, but now it's reversed. So you start with concept to percept. Okay, so in the task, as I said, that as a task of knowledge, we are confronted with percepts and then find the concept idea. But when it comes to humans, the process is reverse. So we must find our concepts of self and then create that percept through our own activity. The second paragraph in this paragraph is really more tied in with 41, so I'm not going to explain that. And what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to move on to 41. But that's basically what he's saying in that paragraph, is that we must start with a concept and then create the percept. Such an objection is one-sided. As object of perception, I am subjected to continual change. As a child, I was one thing, another as a youth, yet another as a man. Indeed, at every moment, the percept picture of myself is different from what it was the moment before. These changes may take place in such a way that it is always the same man, the type, who reveals himself in them, or that they represent the expression of a free spirit. To such changes my action, as object of perception, is subjected. And 41 is summarized as follows. One might object that there is a definite concept corresponding to a person at every moment in their life. If I add this concept of a free spirit, then I have two concepts. This objection is one-sided. As an object of perception, I am subjected to continual change. It is, however, the same person, the type, who is the expression of a free spirit during these perceptual changes. So this paragraph and the paragraph before it was just saying that, if I see a man, I observe him through his childhood, his youth, his adulthood, there's all these different concepts of him, but that's not true. And then you add this concept of the free spirit. Well, now there's two concepts. Well, Steiner's arguing, no, that's wrong. It's the perception, the perceptual level, the percepts you have of this person, that is continuously changing, as he has mentioned. Percepts are always in a state of change. It is the free spirit within that is what is eternal, that is what is ongoing. And so that is what you must look for if you're trying to understand somebody, is that free spirit. A point he doesn't make, but I think is important, what I think about this paragraph, is that we may not be aware of this concept that we are a free spirit. So as we're progressing, as a child to a teenager, adult, we may be very much unconscious that we have a free spirit within us that is seeking expression. And so the main point in the latter half of paragraph 40 and 41, basically what Steiner is saying is to not be fooled by the percepts that it's continuously changing within a person, because the reality is, what's the concept of that person, whether they're aware of it or not, is the free spirit that is seeking expression. So don't be fooled when you see your teenagers coloring their hair, or you see these people, searching for all these things for work to try out. I mean, what that is underlying all of it is the free spirit seeking expression. And so to not be fooled by the percepts that a person is constantly undergoing since they were born. So that is basically all we're going to cover for today. If you have any questions or comments, just send me a message. Have a good day. Bye.